Papers bringing you up to speed on events in foreign football, and today we give you Champions League after a week in which Dios returned, Leo Messi there, a week in which Juventus caught the Lorient Express, a week in which leaders of the Spanish resistance Atletico Madrid became the first side in Europe to book their spot in the last 16. Bayern, they're waiting for you. And a week in which we discovered after Galatasaray's defeat in Copenhagen that we can speak Turkish. Look at this, parking the kabus. And then that we couldn't, because it turns out it doesn't actually mean Big Sam tactics at all, but actually a kabus, a nightmare, in Parken, the Copenhagen stadium, where Galatasaray won the UEFA Cup not so long ago, but where they this week tumble to a disastrous loss in the Champions League. As Photomac put it, wow, what happened to us? Well, did you just appoint Roberto Mancini as manager, perhaps, the man known as the Nigel Farage of football, for the speed at which he'll get you out of Europe? Well, in other midweek news in the Champions League, Olympiacos also beat Benfica, and a story here of revenge and redemption for another Roberto. This one's the Olympiacos goalkeeper, whose checkered career has taken him to the brink of big things at a variety of clubs, including Benfica, but whose errors always seem to mean that he ends up heading up the road again, littlest hobo star, in search of another chance. 2 weeks ago, indeed, it was his howler in Lisbon that cost Olympiacos the game against his former club. But after a week of ridicule in the Portuguese papers, with headlines like "Just aim at Roberto," Bob finally came back to bite them in the return match. It's Roberto's revenge. He denies us 7 goals with a man-of-the-match performance, and one that might well mean someone else's exit for once. As Ojogo puts it, indeed, Benfica's Champions League is hanging by a thread. Roberto has the last laugh. Good for him. Well, with Olympiacos, for their part, 1 foot in the next round, we move on to our last item for this week, which is Milan. The Rossoneri got beat by Barcelona this midweek, but the Champions League, though, is but a sideshow to the real contest going on there right now, one for ultimate power at the club. Now, Milan, of course, are owned by Silvio Berlusconi, but since he has a full-time job trolling the human race and picking up litter by the Autostrada on his community service, he's long since left the running of the club in the hands of the lugubrious Adriano Galliani, that monster-esque figure you see gazing dolefully from the stands at the San Siro. Now, some feel that under Galliani the club is beginning to, well, fester, chief among them Barbara Berlusconi. Yup, Barbara, previously the companion of Milan's Brazilian striker Pato and one of Silvio's 3 daughters, who is keen to get her mitts on his footballing fiefdom. It's like King Lear for the shoot generation. Saturday anyway, after Milan's latest defeat in Serie A, and with the club now 3 points from relegation, she threw her hat in the ring, and most of her buttons with it by the looks of it. Barbara, vote of no confidence in Galliani. I've asked Papa to shake up the company, the quote here, her plan to ditch Galliani and the other old fogies and embrace marketing, merchandising and Paolo Maldini. Yes, indeed, the super glamorous symbol of the old days when Milan used to win everything, but who, due to his frosty relations with the current board, is one of the few players of his era not to have been offered a role at the club. Well, says the Gazzetta dello Sport, it is the double B plan, possibly seriously underestimating her assets. She won't back down a millimetre, says the paper. Well, while Tuttosport then ask, is it buy for Galliani, the man who for 2 decades has run one of the biggest clubs in football? The Gazzetta the next day sounds a note of caution. Their headline, barbaric invasion. They say, Silvio must mediate. It's true that a daughter is a daughter. It's true that Galliani is the man who filled Maldini's left-back position with Grimi, Taiwo and Mesba. Still, he and Silvio built an empire together in business and in sport. Galliani is not just the architect of their triumphs, 28 trophies, including 5 European Cups. He's also a man who can go to the likes of Barcelona or Real Madrid without even needing to knock and come away with the likes of Ronaldinho or Kaká. Not to mention, he's dead handy at Halloween. Losing him, concludes the paper, could be as bad for the club as losing Ibrahimovic. Well, interesting viewpoint. Will Silvio show the door to Galliani? Will Silvio's daughter show the door to Galliani? It's all very confusing. One thing's for sure, we'll be back with more continental news next Friday. Hopefully, you'll be joining us then.